Hello, my friend. When you are in a very hard situation, when you have really tough situation, when life hits you hard and you sometimes you feel stuck, you don't know what to do. Trust me, this is not the end of your life and somehow you will make it. And remember that this moment when you're on the very bottom is actually the momentum of epicenter of your story. As everything in life is about story. Story is very powerful engine. How you educate your kids. It's how you look at your own performance, at your own life, at what you achieved in your life. This is how you see yourself. This is what you can tell other people. This is your story. And when you are how to say it the right way. If you don't lie to yourself, if your self-acknowledgement is in a high level, if you don't try to hide things from yourself, if you don't try to cover, do sugarcoat bad things, when you're brutally honest with yourself and you look at yourself and say, oh my God, I really got in some sort of trouble. This is a very unpleasant situation. It could be shameful, could be painful, could be everything. Just, when you're in the middle of the storm and everything is against you and you don't look good, you probably, you're in a really bad situation. Remember that it's in your power to create this story and use this as a best example for yourself down the road later to be the new point of your new moment, your new decision. That's when you're making something different. That's when something new is it is born and you're moving forward. And when you're building up based on your biggest failure, this is a strong point for you. You don't want to be in that point anymore. And you do your best to move forward and rid of that bad situation. And you do as much as you can. And eventually, life passes and you look back and you say, okay, this is a situation where I got. That was my very vulnerable spot, very weak spot. And this is what I learned from it. And when you move that way, this story is in your library, your personal library. And of course, you might not be able or you don't have the desire to share this, but keep in mind that every story, when it's told the right way, and when you learn from the story, from what happened, and when you had a trouble, when you have big problem, and you made some solution, and you made through that storm in your life, it's a big deal. That's always a big plus. So when you have bad situation, when you have really tough situation, just fight as much as you can, my friend. Be on top of your moral principles. Just doesn't matter how hard it is. You have to be proud of yourself, that how much you're doing in that situation. You don't give up. You're fighting with honor, with dignity, and you fight it the way that when you look back, you would be proud of yourself. And this is very important because it's building you as personality, and your story, your own story, builds you as person. And when you know you were right, you did the right thing, even nobody appreciated it at that time, but you didn't try to purposely offend somebody. You didn't try to put somebody in really bad shoes because your nasty mood or something like that, you try to play by rules as much as you could, and you always try to keep your face and just fight with honor and be very respectful to the situation. And it doesn't matter what the situation was, but when you know that you had a problem and you solved it with best possible scenario. Sometimes you can't fix anything. You have to admit that you lost the fight, but when you learn what you did, how you managed, and you don't want to be in that situation, so at least you're making a right conclusion, a right decision, right recap on the situation. So your self-acknowledgement got like one layer higher. That's so important. You growing up as a person, and you building your story, your life story. Why it's important? It's not about how you behave, but because it's recorded. It's already in your library, your personal life's library. You can leverage this story in anything you want. Just to make new friends, you can say this story and they can see, wow, this person managed this by using this and this and these steps, and they might respect you even more. You can tell this story about yourself, about your problem later to your kids, to your family, and your family members will respect you and love you even more. Just because you're brave enough to tell the story about your problem and the solutions that you found. Marketing, basic marketing for any business, you can leverage your personal story and say how it was hard for you to manage that specific situation, what you trapped in. Some situations coming out of blue, but we are people, we are businesses. So people and businesses, like you as a business. Did you know that if you're in business, you're doing business, you as a business, because the business decision will be made by you, your personality, by and based on your experience, life experience, based on your moral principles. So you as a business. So story is based on what you do in your life. It's a reflection. So build your life, build your story. And it doesn't matter what situations you are, always remember that you can look back, and you will look back, and you want to see how you found the solution for the problems. So storytelling is the core of everything we do in our life. It's in the end of the day, this is the only thing that's going to be left after us. The story about you as a person, and lots of people will say who you were after you pass, and just even when you're alive. I'm sorry, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but I'm just saying, like, storytelling is the kind of different thing, but storytelling based on stories, right? And story, you building the story. Your story is in your own hands. It's up to you what kind of story you want to build. I want you to build a good story about you. And even something happens, just, with open face, with just open your mind, just look at the problem, solve it, and move forward. And that's in your library. Leverage this story, tell it when it's appropriate, use it, leverage, and it's perfect in, storytelling is a very powerful tool, very powerful weapon in a business. So when you start doing your business, doesn't matter what type of business you are, by, just adding personal stories where you are the winner in the end, or showing like what you learn from the story and being honest, it builds big trust. And that's what creates more views, more business, So it's kind of win-win for you. Okay? So I hope you learn from the momentum that when you are in a very low situation, very low point of your life, and everything against you, remember, you will manage it. That's number one. You will learn from it, and this is your story. And you can leverage later and be proud of yourself. And let other people listen to the story and see how you managed it, and seeing you as example for them to manage similar way in a similar situation. So be a pattern. And your story is very powerful tool for that. You will leverage it anytime. That's my tip for today.